It's a Final Word Daily with Adam Collins and Geoff Lemon here in Rawalpindi after the second day of the Pakistan-Australia Test match. Now, off the top, obviously, it's a very unusual day for all the wrong reasons. Shane Warne passing away last night when we were returning from the ground. We got the dreadful news in the convoy as we returned to the team hotel. Really, we need to devote a long time to talk about this. He was the defining character of both of our upbringings from a cricket perspective, really. Yep. And much as it was when Dean Jones passed away a couple of years ago, it packs a massive punch. And Geoff, I think we should have that conversation in great depth after the Test match on the weekly show. We're committed to talking about this match and this series, and we want to show it the respect it deserves. But yeah, off the top, just to acknowledge that this is obviously a significant day.
It's something that we can't not talk about now, but I think we want to be able to give it all of the space that it should have. So the longer weekly show that we'll do in the middle of this coming week, we'll be talking a lot about the life and career of Shane Warne, what he meant to people. We're still working out what shape that's going to take, but that's where we'll get into it in detail. But I mean, for today, it felt like such a strange day. Like the cricket seemed very unimportant today. It was drifting the game anyway, but what was happening out in the middle, I don't know. I can't really put it into words how this feels, but there is this great sense of grief around the whole cricket community. There is, this is someone who for a lot of people was a figure of fun, but on losing him, people realise how much he meant at the same time. So I don't know. I'm not being very coherent here because I still don't really know how to put it into words how we feel today. But as you say, we were in the car on the way back. I mean, you said it to me, Shane Warne's died, and I said that's impossible. That must, at first I thought you were joking. Second, I thought it must be wrong. Someone's got the wrong information. And even now, it doesn't seem possible that could have happened to him at 52.
And in much the same way, we're seeing the Australian team still go through their paces now, doing their cool down. At the close of play. They had to get on with their job this morning. We also have to get on with ours. So let's start the show in the usual way, Geoff, by discussing what happened across 5.5 hours of Test cricket in the space of 30 seconds, please.
Pakistan resuming only 1 wicket down, 200 plus on the board, and they just went along doing the same thing. Got to the lunch break without losing a wicket. Another wicketless session. Imam ul Haq got past 150. Azhar Ali got past 100. Imam finally got out just after lunch. Pat Cummins got a ball to move. It seemed a bit off the pitch. Got him LBW. What was going on? And then Babar Azam goes through to T with Azhar Ali. They start upping the tempo. Even Azhar Ali hit a couple of sixes. He gets out for 185 trying to force the pace. Babar had already been run out by that point. A really good bit of work by Labuschagne. But then Mohammad Rizwan and Iftikhar took them through to the close. They declared on 464 for 4, and they're a long way ahead. They bowled 1 over before they got taken off for bad light.
To be precise, 476 for 4, I should say, because I know that because I've been reading the score over and over again on radio. But Australia did face one over.
I knew it had a 6 in it.
Let's go to the end of the day first, just to discuss the unusual conclusion. So Shaheen Shah Afridi was preparing to bowl the first over of what would have been potentially up to 16 when they finally declared. It was an unusual declaration because we didn't see that explosion that you'll often see before a team's going to pull the pin. We didn't see them put the foot down for a quarter of an hour, 20 minutes to run the board up in a relatively risk-free manner. And by risk-free, I mean when they already know they're going to finish up, so wickets don't mean an awful lot. Instead, they just kind of went along at 4 or so and over. And then Babar Azam from nowhere walks out on the balcony and says, I've had enough of that. Let's have a trundle. But the problem was the ground staff were out there rolling the pitch in consultation with the umpires, and the umpires are like, well, you can play provided you bowl spin. So suddenly Sajid Khan had to bowl the first over, the off-breaker, and once he got through 1 over, Usman Khawaja picked off 5 runs against the new ball. They're like, no, actually, that's it, bad light, you're off. And so the close came with Australia 471 runs in the red, and we come back tomorrow.
To which I say, boo, because there are players in the nets on the centre wicket right now. They're having centre wicket nets facing the red ball right now. So, I mean, tell me why you couldn't be playing a test match.
Yeah,
if players in the test squad are out there batting under these lights. It's cloudy. The cloud came across a long way. The sun disappeared. You can't really see it behind us, but there's kind of almost a bit of a sunset happening. Yeah. But the floodlights are glaring. There's so much light out in the middle. They could comfortably be playing. Probably Pakistan wouldn't have been wanting to bowl just spin for an hour. at the end of the day. But if they had wanted to, why shouldn't they be able to?
It's touch and go, isn't it? I mean, I'm always conservative on matters of bad light because I'm mindful that how could we know what it's like to be a professional cricketer out there against Shaheen Shah Afridi at 150 clicks and likewise Naseem Shah. But you're right in saying that this isn't the kind of pronounced bad light that would often stop play, when you're at 6:30 at night or something like that. The lights came on here at 3:45 and they took the players off. I think it was about 20 to 5 when they had that initial deliberation about whether they could bowl their quicks or not. So it was quite early, which made it quite unusual.
Yeah, exactly that. And that, as you say, sure, maybe say you can't be bowling Shaheen Shah Afridi, fine. But if they want to bowl the spinners, they should be able to. So
the day that we did get to see was defined by Azhar Ali, 19th Test 100, 4th against Australia, has a fabulous record against Australia despite having a lean run in Australia a couple of years ago. 185, his second ton in Pakistan. I think the main point when I think of Azhar Ali is that he played the first, decade of his Test career without a Test match here in Pakistan. In 2019 was their first opportunity. Before then, it was all in the UAE, and he became a bit of a UAE specialist. He averaged 54 over there. But it's different playing at a neutral venue in front of really no people compared to being at home. We've seen the atmosphere. We've experienced what it's like to be at a Pakistan cricket ground on a Test match day. He missed so much of that for so much of his career. So I'm thrilled for him at age 37, getting the chance to be such an influential player still in that top order for Pakistan against a team he's done well against before. We were at his double 100 at Melbourne a couple of years back.
Which took about 3 days because of all of the rain.
It was 4 days, wasn't it?
He may have got it early on day 4, having taken them all the way through. That was an extraordinary performance of concentration. And I wanted him to get another double. I thought,
Me too.
He likes doubles against Australia. He should get another double. That was the only thing I didn't like about the whole enterprise, was him getting out to a terrible reverse, toe-ending it to short third. I mean, that's not how you want to see a discipline application player get out. He was trying to do the right thing. He was trying to help the scoring along so they could declare with more runs on the board. But still, it's not the shot you want to see Azhar Ali get out to. Yeah,
it was just after tea when he hit 3 boundaries in the first over against Labuschagne. 1 forceful pull and then a couple of lovely dabs. I think it was against Labuschagne, bowling from the far end here, the pavilion end. And then you could see he was trying to get resourceful. He had a look at a reverse sweep a couple of overs before, then picked out the wrong guy to try and clear Cameron Green there at short third, and that was it on 185. But yeah, thrilled for him. The 208 that he put on with Imam Al-Haq, who finished up with 157. He started slowly today, Imam Al-Haq. He didn't add heavily to his overnight score, but he did get through to lunch. It did mean that Australia were, almost certainly going to have to bowl into a 6th session, which we know how taxing that is on the bodies of fast bowlers in particular, and not to mention the senior Australian top order, who a fairly experienced bunch, but you're talking about getting hours and hours in the field into someone like David Warne, Usman Khawaja, which might play a role through the course of a series. They'll just be fatigued like anyone would be. So, and it's not hot, by the way, but just the very idea of fielding for 2 full days, 2 days in the dirt, it's not fun at any old time.
Well, so, and the other thing about the call for bad light is that is a godsend for the Australians.
Hugely.
Because Warner and Khawaja, as you say, out there on the field for 5 sessions, then they're expecting to come out and bat. That's the advantage that Pakistan have earned by the way they've batted, by the discipline and application they've showed to make sure they get through to this point. They've earned the opportunity to wear out the opposition and then have a crack at them with the new ball. That opportunity is taken away. These guys now get a good night's sleep. I mean, David Warner's full of energy. He's running laps down here right now with Andrew McDonald and George Bailey. So the coach, the chairman of selectors, and the current opening bat are charging around the field together.
During dinner party.
Yeah. So he's obviously not too exhausted, Warner. He's very fit. But still, it's a big plus for Australia that they get to come back tomorrow and start again instead of having to bat through the session tonight.
Yeah, I suppose it's the mental concentration. Much of that innings, well, I suppose as an infielder, you've got to be bang on every ball. You can't afford to miss the chance.
And Labuschagne's a key point of that. The run out there, I couldn't believe how well he pounced on that ball, picked it up and threw down the stumps. After 5 sessions just about in the field, he was still onto it enough to beat Babar Azam, who's no slouch between the wickets, home with a direct hit throw by about 2 inches, I reckon, by the time they found an angle that wasn't obscured by a fielder. To have the concentration to do that's remarkable. He's
got a bit of a habit of hitting the stumps now, Labuschagne. He did so yesterday, and it wasn't a run out, but it was a brilliant piece of fielding. And of course, Rory Burns was out for a duck at Hobart in the most recent test that Australia played when Labuschagne was able to turn a quarter chance into a run out, and that was the most influential part of that Test match. So, yeah, absolutely. Credit to Labuschagne. He picked up a wicket as well. I think he earned that. He gave the ball a big old rip, and I know we spoke a lot yesterday, Geoff, about Australia only picking one spinner. So when that does happen, they do need Labuschagne to be influential with the ball, as he was 4 years ago when he started his Test career. So a tick for him. And I think also a tick for Pat Cummins more generally. Look at the economy rates. They didn't go for runs. They did keep things in check. And that's, again, it's sort of medium-term, long-term thinking. It's how do we make sure that Pakistan can't pull the pin at T earlier than they otherwise might. As we saw today, they went late, but they might have gone at T and still got 15 overs today. Yep. And thus they might have had Australia a couple down, and it's a very different equation. Instead, Australia increased the chances they have of drawing this Test match and going to Karachi with it being 0-0. So, yeah, it's the bigger picture thing, and you need to bowl tightly in order to earn your right to drag the Test match deep, especially when you have a couple of days in the dirt.
It did feel, to an extent, like Babar Azam's declaration was as much... sod this, like, we can't score quickly against them. I've had enough of watching this. Like, let's get it done, let's get it over with, because they couldn't really attack. It wasn't really
Well, they tried, didn't they? They changed the batting order.
Gave it a go. You know, popped Mohammad Rizwan up and so on, and they did hit some boundaries, but couldn't really get flying. So that, I suppose, that aspect was interesting. There's some rain forecast over the next couple of days. Maybe the Australians get out of this, but they've had a lot of miles put into them.
I just want to note again that Imam Al-Haq, we said yesterday about his century, but made it a big one too. You know, the easy thing to do is to come back the next day and to get out early doors. And
Steve or SCG.
Yeah, Steve or SCG, first
Silver
of all.
medals at the Commonwealth Games, Steve or.
But he didn't do that. He made 10 runs in the first hour and a half he was in the middle today, because he was determined to be part of the driving Australia into the dirt. Another nice celebration when he reached 150. So hopefully that's a turning point.
Pointless.
In his
Celebrate
Test
150.
career.
What's the point? Make 200 or nothing.
And a really good partnership. You mentioned they upped the tempo, Babar Azam and Azhar Ali. Well, they put on 101 in about 101 minutes, I reckon it was. So just when they wanted to tick the board over after Imam was dismissed, they were able to do that. Babar Azam, 3 splendid drives down the ground. Presumably a sign of what's likely to come through this series. He loves batting at home in Pakistan.
The Hall of Fame, when we look at the most Hall of Fame, the most final word moment of the day, should I say, can I bring in something from another Test match and just say,
Please.
Ravindra Jadeja, 175 not out.
Really?
Batting at 7, the highest score by any Indian batsman at 7 in a Test match. Got declared on today at 8 wickets down, 175 not. But had an absolute field day.
I would have loved to have seen his celebration. Of course, he was so close to Shane Warne, a member of that Rajasthan Royals team all the way back in 2008, someone who Warne brought through. I think he might have been a teenager still then, or at least very young in his career. And
the rock star.
The rock star, and he helped turn him into a superstar as far as the public were concerned. Well played, Ravindra Jadeja. I'm going to stick with the Warne theme for Hall of Fame, by the way. We had a tribute in the press box at the tea break. Geoff, you spoke of that on behalf of the Australian media. It was a long... What would you call it? A long drape of sorts. Banner. That's a better word for it. Where it had a picture of Shane and acknowledging 1969 until 2012. Nice. That was well done by the PCB, so thanking them for that. And Waqar Younis spoke really nicely too. He was brilliant on our broadcast today, talking about an old friend of his.
And I would throw in from that as my nomination one of our Pakistan print colleagues who told us a story that about 15 years ago Shane Warne had signed an autograph for his son. And he said his son had called him in tears last night, having heard the news, and he said, "My son grew up to be a leg spinner." There's just something in that about the way that it didn't matter which country you were from. The sort of magic of that leg spin bowler could cross cultural divides and touch everybody.
It's a big theme, that the way that he touched people in different ways. I mean, it's funny in a way, some of the tributes to Warne, but it reflects the broader way in which he was interpreted. The fact that at the SCG there were baked beans left out at the gate there, at the members gate. At the MCG where his sculpture sits, and there was a couple of press conferences there today, there were cans of VB, a packet of cigarettes and a pie. I mean, on one level...
Didn't even like beer.
Didn't even like beer. But on one level, that's funny. But on another level, I mean, it's kind of in its own weird way quite touching.
On another level, if he could have had some input, Warne would have said, "I'll buy some of the 708 gin, leave a bottle of that. Oh, it's a great drop, leave a bottle of that at the statue. Just move a few more units."
So yes, as we say, we'll talk more about the great Shane Warne later in the week, but we might leave it there for the final word. So 476 for 4 declared Pakistan. Australia 5 without loss in reply, Warner and Khawaja. To resume tomorrow, Adam Collins, Geoff Lemon signing off from Rawalpindi on a a desperately sad day for Australian and global cricket.